Malcolm X, The Autobiography of Malcolm X. Embark on an emotional and transformative journey through the life of Malcolm X, a man who fearlessly fought for civil rights and the empowerment of African Americans. In this summary of The Autobiography of Malcolm X, learn about the key events that shaped his life, from his early years as a child of a preacher and civil rights activist, to his immersion in street life, and his ultimate transformation into a national leader and icon. Understand the Nation of Islam's influence on his life, the path that led to his pilgrimage to Mecca, and his growing insights on racism and unity. Follow Malcolm X's journey through hardship and enlightenment, as he seeks truth, justice, and equality for his people.
Malcolm X, A Childhood of Struggles. Malcolm Little's early life was shaped by his family's history of oppression, a father's teachings, and the tragic end of his father's life. Malcolm X, born Malcolm Little, had a tumultuous upbringing that started with his family's history of oppression. His mother Louise, the product of a white slave master raping her mother, had very fair skin, and Malcolm's lighter complexion made him stand out among his siblings. Malcolm's birth brought back memories of the white rapist in the family's past, which led his mother to be harsher on him than her other children. Despite the family's struggles, Malcolm's father, Reverend Earl Little, played a significant role in his life. As a Baptist preacher, Earl Little helped spread the teaching of Marcus Garvey, who advocated for black pride and identity. However, Earl Little's efforts to create a sense of pride and identity within the black community led to a tragic end when he was beaten to death when Malcolm was just 6 years old. Despite the clear evidence of foul play, the police claimed that his death was an accident. After her husband's death, Louise struggled to keep the family together as a single mother and had to resort to government aid. The government's child welfare officers were especially cruel to Louise, ultimately succeeding in putting her in a state mental hospital when Malcolm was 12, and sending the children to live with different families. Malcolm's childhood was full of tragedy, oppression, and struggle. Nevertheless, his father's teachings inspired a sense of pride, identity, and activism that would drive Malcolm's transformation later in life. Malcolm's struggle. Malcolm's early years were plagued by racism, low expectations, and social exclusion. After being expelled from school and spending time in a detention home, he realized the extent of societal discrimination against black people. Nevertheless, he persevered and nurtured a dream of becoming a lawyer, which was met with pessimism and opposition. It was not until he visited his half-sister in Boston that he witnessed black pride and culture, which inspired him to pursue a different path. From Roseland to Small's Paradise. Malcolm's journey from a shoeshine boy at Roseland Ballroom to a waiter at Small's Paradise in Harlem. Malcolm X's childhood was tumultuous, marked by his father's death and his mother's institutionalization. Luckily, Malcolm's older sister Ella became his legal guardian and took him to Roxbury, where he soon learned about street life. There, he met Shorty, a man from Malcolm's hometown, who introduced him to the seedier side of Roxbury and got him a job shining shoes at Roseland Ballroom. Malcolm shined the shoes of musical legends like Duke Ellington and Count Basie while also engaging in the illegal activities of a shoeshine boy, such as providing customers with booze, drugs, and sex worker phone numbers. Malcolm's self-destructive behavior continued as he indulged in booze, marijuana, flashy clothes, and dancing. However, he learned a new skill from Shorty, conking his hair with hot lye to straighten the curls. Malcolm later came to view this practice as self-degradation, indicative of brainwashed black men. Malcolm had various jobs before becoming a porter on trains, selling food and drinks to passengers. This job allowed him to visit Harlem and, in one night, he fell in love with the city and its enormous Savoy nightclub. Eventually, Malcolm moved to Harlem and became a waiter at Small's Paradise, a popular cultural landmark. Malcolm's journey from the shoeshine boy at Roseland Ballroom to a waiter at Small's Paradise in Harlem showcases his determination to succeed despite his tumultuous childhood and self-destructive behavior. Malcolm's life of crime. Malcolm's job at Small's Paradise in Harlem taught him about the criminal lifestyle, including robbery, pimping, and gambling. He eventually lost his job and turned to selling marijuana to make money. Malcolm's musician friends were reliable customers. When the police suspected him of dealing, he went on tour to keep his business going. But in 1943, things got tougher, and Malcolm began escorting white customers to secret locations in Harlem. Through these experiences, Malcolm realized that Harlem was seen as nothing more than a den of sin to white people. Malcolm was on the wrong path, and it was about to come to an end. Malcolm X's journey to self-realization. At 20 years old, Malcolm X's life was spiraling out of control due to his dangerous hustling habits and drug use. A gambling mistake led to him being accused of cheating, and he left Harlem for Boston hoping things would get better. There, he teamed up with Shorty and two white girlfriends to rob wealthy households. However, he was arrested and sentenced to 10 years in prison. It was in prison that Malcolm had a spiritual awakening, fueled by Bimby's influence. Malcolm became obsessed with reading and developed a strong desire to educate himself. His brothers introduced him to the Nation of Islam, leading him to become a devout member. Malcolm's time in prison shaped him into the charismatic and powerful figure he would later become. Malcolm X, from prison to activist. Malcolm X finds his voice as a public speaker during his time in prison and becomes a passionate activist for the Nation of Islam upon his release. He uses his skills in staged debates to spread the message of the group and challenge the white man's image of Jesus. His success leads to him being recruited by other ministers to speak and eventually becoming a prominent figure in the movement. Malcolm passionately spreads the teachings of the Nation of Islam, including the idea of African Americans being descendants of African Muslims and the concept of the original man being black. Malcolm X's rise to prominence. Malcolm X, after being made an official minister of the Nation of Islam, established new temples across the country, attracting new members by convincing them to hear about a faith that wasn't a white man's religion. He was eventually made a minister of his own temple in New York City. By the end of the 1950s, with the help of the Nation of Islam, a member successfully sued the city of New York for over $70,000, bringing national attention to the organization. Malcolm X's life and betrayal. The Nation of Islam aimed to empower black men and women and instill pride and dignity in their identity. Malcolm X spread this message through interviews with the media, distancing himself from the false claims of black supremacy. He aimed to educate them on the devilish behavior of white men, which sprouted skepticism among black men about integration. Malcolm's faith in the Nation of Islam and its leader, Elijah Muhammad, was shattered when he discovered the latter's affair with two secretaries who filed paternity suits against him. This revelation led to a rift between them. In 1963, when Malcolm called JFK's assassination a sinister sign, he received a 90-day ban from the Nation of Islam, which later turned out to have issued orders for his death. Malcolm's eye-opening pilgrimage. Malcolm X, faced with death threats from Elijah Muhammad, decided to make a pilgrimage to Mecca to escape the threats and broaden his understanding of true Islam. During his journey, he learned that the Orthodox Muslim religion was different from what he'd been taught, as he encountered brotherhood among Muslims of all colors, including white individuals who showed him hospitality. This experience led him to publicly reconsider his previously held beliefs and argue for the support of African Americans. He continued his journey in Cairo, Beirut, Nigeria, and Ghana, making public appearances at colleges and meeting with politicians to rally support for the black community. Malcolm and the New Perspective. Malcolm's return to New York in 1964 after his 39th birthday was met with curiosity from the press. He quickly elaborated on his new understanding that white people were not inherently racist, but centuries of mistreatment had led to a destructive problem in society, as seen in the riots in ghettos around the U.S. To make a change, Malcolm formed the Muslim Mosque, Inc. and the Organization of Afro-American Unity, OAAU, to spread an all-inclusive message. While white people couldn't join OAAU, Malcolm advised them to start their organizations in their neighborhood, spreading anti-racism and anti-violence. Malcolm's regret was that he once said to a white college girl that she could do nothing, but now he encouraged her to make a change. The tragic death of Malcolm X. Malcolm X's life was marked by violence, leading up to his assassination at the hands of the Nation of Islam. Despite his controversial reputation, his friend Ossie Davis saw him as a man who only wanted the best for his people. Malcolm X's life was shaped by the violence that surrounded him. His father and 4 of his uncles were killed as a result of violence, leading Malcolm to believe that he would also be targeted by white racists or members of the Nation of Islam. Even though he was at peace with the possibility of his own death, he was not at peace with his family being threatened. The tension came to a head when a lawsuit brought by the Nation of Islam forced Malcolm's family out of their home. On February 13, 1965, a Molotov cocktail was thrown through his window. A week later, at a meeting of his OAAU organization, 3 gunmen from the Nation of Islam assassinated Malcolm while his pregnant wife and children looked on in horror. Despite his controversial reputation, Malcolm's friend Ossie Davis saw him as a man who only wanted the best for his people. In his eulogy, Davis praised Malcolm as an uncompromising black man and a proud example of strength. Malcolm's death was tragic, but his legacy lives on as a reminder of the dangers of systemic violence and racism.
Despite experiencing immense struggle and adversity, Malcolm X managed to rise above it all to empower African Americans and fight for the betterment of their lives. He emerged as a national leader and a symbol of hope for inclusiveness, despite initially placing blame solely upon white people. His pilgrimage to Mecca led him to change his perspective on racism, opening his heart to people of all backgrounds who stood for unity and peace. Malcolm X's legacy lives on as he continues to inspire millions around the world to recognize the importance of equality, dignity, and justice. Remembered as a proud, uncompromising figure, his earnest pursuit of truth and transformation is a testament to his unwavering dedication to the cause of civil rights.